All right, guys. So our final topic here is going to be our spoiler discussion here, kind of spoiler review discussion, recap, if you will, of WandaVision, first MCU property to premiere on Disney Plus. And right off the bat, I'm gonna jump in here. I'm gonna say just off the top, beforehand, before we get into it, I did like the show. Okay, so like, don't think I didn't like the show based on things I'm going to say, but I liked the show. All right. Now, with that done and out of the way, though, I am going to get into kind of like my actual, I don't know, like review. It's going to have, I guess, like I'm going to start with negatives. We'll say the only real like negative I have is that like, and it's kind of was my fear with it that they just leaned too much into the sitcom thing and didn't give enough substance to it, like as far as a sitcom goes and as far as the MCU stuff goes, like the current day stuff, like the what's going on of it all. Because after an hour's worth of the show, you still have no inkling of what's actually going on. Like
Exactly.
which I
That's my
think is
thought.
yeah, it's kind of a mistake. Because like with a sitcom thing, I'm fine with it. I enjoy it, but it's not like anything groundbreaking as far as sitcom stuff goes. It's very mediocre. Like the jokes aren't like any more funny than any other sitcom out there. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the only reason anybody would be, or at least I'm not going to speak for everybody, but like the only reason that like I'm giving it any credence to like continue watching it is because I know it exists inside the MCU. So like I know something like more is to come.
Yeah, more's
But
gonna happen.
yeah, but it's like if you were to I feel like if you remove the MCU equation out of it and you just have the sitcom that's presented to you, I don't think it's anything to write home about. Like it's just kind of run of the mill, generic, mediocre sitcom episode. Nothing. I guess not better than Seinfeld. It's not better than The Office. It's not better
No.
than Friends. Like
It
it's
just reminded me of I Love Lucy, just like quirky 50s sitcom.
yeah, which isn't that's like I said, it's not a bad thing. Like it's just like I don't feel like there definitely wasn't enough of a balance because like I said, you get the same teaser in both episodes essentially, with the exception of the beekeeper guy. That was like the only thing, but it's still
Yeah.
all it does was add more question marks though. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're not given told any answers, anything as to the who, what's, and whys. It's just the sitcom thing, and it's just not that great of a sitcom. So the only reason it's
Ooh.
like I don't know. I just feel like the only reason I'm watching it is because I know it's in the MCU. That's and I don't know. It's like if that's
Like
really,
if it wasn't in the MCU, would you watch it?
that's what I'm saying. No, like I wouldn't, like because like it's not that funny of a sitcom. Like you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
if you just look at it from a sitcom standpoint, not the greatest ever. Not that it needs to be, but it's not anything that I would be like, I gotta watch this next week. I need to see what
Stay
antics
tuned.
WandaVision get into now. Like I like that. I've no one.
That Vision, man, he's crazy.
Yeah, like I just wouldn't. I don't think it's really holding up that well for it. And then I don't know. So yeah, I just feel like the only reason I'm watching it is because of the MCU. So like you know what I mean. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I feel like it's partly a bad thing because there's been nothing presented on it to make me watch it otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you remove the MCU element, you're just left with a sitcom thing, which really wasn't all that good.
My thoughts mirror yours, like exactly.
Yeah. Like I liked it though. Like it was fun to watch. Like I didn't have anything I don't think
was
it was
entertained.
bad. Yeah. I didn't think it was bad in any way. I didn't hate it. I wasn't bored by it. I just like I just wanted more from it, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. What John, you're obviously on a different camp here. Like with I feel like we're gonna have a Wonder Woman kind of thing here. Wonder Woman 84.
Well, I think we are. I love it. I think it's brilliant. I think it's I cannot. I don't have enough praise that I can heap upon it. But everything you're saying are the exact like fears that I had about the show when I heard the premise and I heard the whole like I felt like what you're saying about is kind of what a lot of the audience is gonna feel.
Mhm.
And so yeah, is it a funny sitcom on its own? Like if this was just a sitcom that was on TV, would I watch it? Maybe not. Maybe I would. I don't know. But it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a sitcom. It's a there's a subtexture to it that's going on. There's something happening with Wanda and
Sure.
you know, while you know I laughed out loud a couple times at a couple of the jokes, there's also like I actually got kind of like emotionally invested in a couple scenes, and they're very short, very quick scenes, but they hit me like a ton of bricks. The first one was at the end of the first episode when they sit on their couch and Vision says something to Wanda like, and then they lived happily ever after. And to me, that was just like an emotional gut punch, because they don't live happily ever after. You know what happened to Vision in Infinity War, and so the sadness of seeing this happy life for them, knowing that that's not what's happening in the real world. Because all things being equal, I think it's pretty safe to say that this probably isn't the real world. That this is probably some sort of either alternate world or fantasy world or computer generated world. There's something weird going on. This is not reality that we're watching.
Before I forget this, and let me add this real, because I know I'm going to forget. The one thing I did think was interesting, because we knew the sitcom thing was fake, right? Like, kind of like you're saying, like, we know something's off, right? The one thing I thought was kind of interesting, you don't really get this until the second episode, when she goes over to that woman's house and before they do the magic show, right? Like, when the phone rings and the voice comes through and is asking, like, Wanda, who's doing this to you? Which sounded like Bruce Banner, by the way. Was that Bruce? Like, I don't think it was, but it kind of sounded like Mark Ruffalo.
I couldn't really decipher who
it was hard to hear. Like, at some point, I was like, "Is that Mark Ruffalo?" And I don't know. But what I thought was actually interesting in that scene, though, is that it seems like these people are real. Like, that woman, like, was a real person, didn't know what was going on with her either. Like, when the phone thing started happening, or the radio, whatever it was, and Wanda heard it, it's like her hold over altering reality was slipping, and that woman started to slip back into reality and didn't know what the hell was going on, and then broke the glass. So it seems like all these people that are here are actually real existing human beings who are stuck in this situation as a result of Wanda, as opposed to them being figments of, her imagination. You know what I mean? Which I thought was interesting. Like, 'cause that was one thing I didn't know how they were going to do this, right? Is this going to be like Truman Show and everyone's real and everyone's in on it? Or is it all fake? You know what I mean? Like, is it just all like, projections, or they seem to be real people, which is interesting.
Yeah, it could be like them, because you've also got that shot at the very end of the first episode where somebody pulls away, where this camera pulls away from a monitor that's clearly observing. There's somebody observing what's going on. So yeah, this could be real people that have. I mean, all these people could be abducted. I
didn't get
like
that
you
part.
said.
Well, we don't have any S.W.o.r.d, though, right? Wasn't that S.w.o.r.d? The logo.
Well, yes, exactly. And see, that's where like you said, like, we don't get a lot of answers, but I feel like they give you, at least for me, they gave me enough. They gave me enough that it like, I don't mind at all the slow burn that they've got going on, because very early on,
there's a good payoff, then it's fine, 100%. Like, yeah,
it's definitely going to come down to how they stick the landing. I agree completely. Like, if the ending to the show sucks or is mediocre, then you're going to look back and go, I really wish I hadn't invested all that time. But the S.w.o.r.d logo appears multiple times throughout it, which is really, an interesting. There are little hints here and there that I think once it's all done, once you go back and watch it, it'll be these early episodes will feel a lot more important than maybe they do on their standalone before you know the whole story.
As the show progresses,
And there's also the element too, like, and this is something I was really worried about again when I heard the premise of it, was these shows and the comedy is very specific and unique to the time period that they were from. Like, if you never watched The Honeymooners, or if you never like watched I Love Lucy, like actually watch it, like, you can know what it is and have seen clips and stuff and be like, haha, yeah, it was a funny show. But if you never actually watched it and don't have an I was going to say appreciation, but you can appreciate it without having watched it. If you don't have a
familiarity with it,
an investment. If you don't have a personal attachment to that era of television or those shows specifically, then they're not going to be like, I could watch both these episodes and you could remove. I'm like going the opposite way from you. You could remove all the MCU stuff, and I would still find them humorous and funny. I'd be like, yeah, that was an entertaining show. It gives me that feeling of I Love Lucy, or it gave me the feeling of Bewitched, which I watched a ton of
Yeah,
Witch
did too,
and
back
I
in the day.
liked it,
and
and,
I
like, I
Dream of
thought it was
Jeannie.
good,
Nick at
just
Night.
I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was entertaining as I thought it was good by itself, like, just a sitcom thing, I
Yeah.
thought it was fine. I just didn't think it was anything, like, that blew me away. Like, you know how the
Nothing to write home
MC
about.
yeah, like, the MCU and what they've been able to do in, like, the comic book genre, for instance, like, that can blow you away. Like, which is how good the movies can be. Like, Winter Soldier, for instance, it's, like, just a movie that is
Winter
just completely
Soldier.
exceeds the genre of being a superhero or comic book movie. It's this political thriller, the spy movie, this it's just a good movie. And, like,
Mhm.
when you draw that comparison to this, it's not some groundbreaking sitcom thing, it's just, mediocre, like, I'm not using mediocre and people always think mediocre is a bad term, it's not, it means it's average, like, it's not great, it's not bad, it's just mediocre.
In the middle,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
See,
that's you know what I mean?
I thought it was a very good, and that's where we have a different opinion. I thought it was a very good 50s style sitcom. Now, is it a good sitcom compared to Friends? Does it have, the modern references that what's the big one? Modern Family maybe for our era has? No, but or Office,
Yeah.
it doesn't have
It's a
those
tall
references.
ask too, in
But it
all
had
honesty,
but it
that's a
had
big
other
ask.
stuff that was absolutely hilarious to me. My god, the toaster commercial that was in
Yeah.
it,
That was
I
good.
was laughing out loud at that whole thing. Does your man hate it when you burn his toast or whatever
Yeah.
the line was?
That
I
was
mean,
good.
just absolutely like the played off the old tropes of the woman stays at home and cooks and like and
She's in the
Yeah.
having a whole
kitchen, yeah.
commercial.
Well,
Yeah,
even
it just
the magazine that Catherine Hahn's character had, of just, like, how to please your
Your
or whatever the hell it
How to
was,
please your
yeah,
exactly.
good
husband,
stuff.
And
yeah.
like how do you seduce him and stuff and just
Yeah.
all the like little jokes and the way I mean, I find that stuff just I was grinning ear to ear. I've watched, like I said, I watched both episodes twice already. I think it's they're knocking it out of the park. And the other thing I'll say about it is, well, I think I've got two more points, but the first one I wanted to make was um this is I think what we're going to get from these Marvel shows. I think, when you look at Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think, that's going to be more in the vein of the typical MCU style movie or the typical what people think of when they think of the MCU. But I think they're going to use these shows to explore different and take some risks, and which I'm glad to see
Oh, yeah, me
because
too, yeah, 100%.
as much as I love the MCU movies and they have my money until, whenever they want to stop taking it. That I do like the idea that we're going to branch out and explore some different things. So I think, we're going to get this sort of like play on the decades of sitcoms with WandaVision. But then I think maybe when She-Hulk comes out, we're going to get the MCU's take on the legal drama format, the Law and Order, the Boston Legal, the typical legal shows. I think She-Hulk might play in that arena some. So we're going to start exploring some of the other genres of television that you don't necessarily have the chance to look at in the big budget superhero movies. So I'm excited for it. I love it.
I will say, just
But
because you mentioned grinning ear to ear, I was grinning ear to ear as soon as I got to hear the Marvel music and the little Marvel splash just from finally getting some MCU content. I
Yeah.
was just like, "Oh, man." Like,
Here you go.
it was
that
before it even started, I was just like, "I'm okay, this is good."
I agree. Then that dovetails into my final point, which is we talked about it before, but I really wonder if people's anticipation for more MCU content. I mean, we haven't had anything since Spider-Man. Spider-Man was kind of a wrap up after Endgame. You didn't have all the other characters popping up in Spider-Man Far From Home. It was really a Spider-Man centric show with some Tony Stark influences in there.
Mhm.
But the Endgame, it's been almost 2 years since Endgame came out, and I wonder if people's anticipation to get back in that world and that is kind of coloring this. This is our first trip back into the MCU, and like you said, we don't get a trip back into the MCU. It's almost like you told me we were going back. It's like your parents tell you they're taking you to Disney World, and they decide to stop at every roadside attraction along the way, and it's like, yeah, but Disney World, we need to get to Disney. I want to go back to the
Yeah.
MCU,
It's a good
and you're not there.
comparison.
And so I wonder if if we had gotten Black Widow, if we had gotten Eternals, if we had gotten these other movies that have been delayed, if the anticipation wouldn't be there so much, and people would be a little more a little more willing to take the slow trip to get back to it.
Mm, it's possible. I know that for me, I wasn't. Me wanting more out of it didn't make me dislike it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because I liked it overall. Like I just don't want. I just want more out of it than the sitcom thing. Like because I like the sitcom
Show that it's a
thing.
bigger part. There's like a bigger part of the Marvel
I just
universe.
didn't want them to rely on it as a trope that doesn't really
Hmm.
pay off. You know what I mean? I'm totally. I like the creativity behind it. I think it was executed well. Like we were saying with all the little nods to this, like the era, the time period, and everything. Like all executed fine. Like it was good. Like I totally liked it. Like I'm definitely looking forward to more, especially now that like at the end of it, it all turned to color. So I'm assuming in episode 3 we get a little bit more of like what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I just feel like if anything, you could have cut the first episode out, and you would have been fine with only seeing the second one. Like you get a little
You
bit
don't get
more out
much.
of it, and
Yeah, that
like
doesn't accomplish much in the first episode. I don't think.
yeah,
Other
Well,
than
and there's
introducing the
but
characters.
but there's elements to the first episode that, again, like I mentioned earlier, I think when you're able, like, I'm going to be really interested to see what you guys' opinion of the show is in total is like once it's all done, because
yeah.
I think there are things about it that are real, like the wife, Hart, their last name was Hart, but the wife that comes over in that whole segment when he starts choking, and
That was
then
weird,
Wanda
dude.
finally,
Yeah.
yeah, right, really weird, but that has to mean something. There has to be more going on. There's a subtexture to that, or
Yeah.
Where
there's
she's just
something
repeating
underneath
herself.
that's
And
going exactly. And Wanda finally looks at Vision, and it's almost like she gives him permission. She says,
She did,
Vision,
yeah.
help him. And so there's something more. I love that stuff. I love the slow burn
It seemed
in
like
them.
because you remember how I was saying, this is good that you brought this up because this slipped my mind for a minute. But how I was saying that everybody there seemed to be affected by Wanda, right? When Wanda slipped, when she heard the radio, that woman slipped too, and she was like, "Where am I?" Whatever, broke the glass in her hand. It almost seemed like, what's Topher Grace's name in that '70s show? Eric.
Eric Foreman.
Yeah, it looked like Eric Foreman's mom during that dinner scene. Seemed like she wasn't actually affected by Wanda, and she was, like, in on that, like, you know what I mean? Because like, the dude was choking, and she just kinda, like, went
It's
with
like,
it.
stop it.
Yeah,
Stop
she just
it.
kinda, like, went with it. It wasn't like it wasn't the same kind of thing that when Wanda because Wanda didn't slip there, but, like, I don't know,
But
like
Wanda got flustered by all the questions. Wanda and Vision didn't have answers to their questions about where they were from, when they were, and they were Wanda and Vision were clearly being rattled by those questions, and then all of a sudden he starts choking,
And it just cuts
and
it
so
off.
yeah, it's like the trauma or the
but then
her being
they saw Vision be Vision, and they didn't care. That's why I think, like, it
They
almost
didn't
seemed
really
like
see that, though.
it almost seemed
He was down under the table. It's a sleight of hand thing, and like
you
know,
could say that maybe they didn't see it, but I'm going from the aspect that maybe, like, Eric Foreman's mom is a part of S.w.o.r.d. and knows that it's Wanda Maximoff and Vision.
like she's in the system of whatever they're
Yeah.
doing. Or,
But I mean, Vision, technically speaking, is dead right now too. So, like,
Sure.
how did Vision save somebody? If these people are real, like, how would he even have done it? Like, you know what I mean? That's the other thing that's kind of confusing because it seems like they're setting it up to where Wanda is affecting these like actual human beings around them.
yeah,
And like not so I mean, I guess theoretically speaking, Wanda could have easily just poofed it out of her, so she might be projecting Vision, who would have the powers of Vision because it's Wanda.
yeah.
So I mean, maybe that's possible. Like, you know what I mean? Like Wanda or like Vision is like could be a physical construct of Vision that is being projected by Wanda.
Yeah, and you've got stuff like the helicopter that's kind of got the Iron Man color scheme to it, but it's also got the sword logo on it that shows
And it
up.
was in
It's the
color.
only thing that's in color. I mean, that has to mean something too, but we're just not going to know how all these pieces, they're leaving a trail of puzzle pieces, and unfortunately I don't know that they're puzzle pieces that we can put together. But I think
Yet,
they might
yeah.
have some real significance once it's all said and done. But I was, and I was worried all along, especially when I heard the premise. I think I said, I may have said it on the show, I may have just said to somebody else, but when I heard the first episode, it turns out the first two, but when I heard the first episode was entirely black and white, I went, oh God, I mean, are for lack of a better way to put it, are kids these days, are young people these
The
days
Zoomers.
going to, are the
Zoomers.
Zoomers, are they gonna sit down and watch? Everybody, all the young kids that went and saw, Endgame and saw, Cap running around swinging Mjolnir, are they going to be like black and white? All right, yeah, I'm going to sit here for a half hour. Or are they just going to be like, yeah, I'm
Well, not
out?
to mention just the
So
overall sitcom laugh track slapstickiness of the
sure,
50s and 60s sitcom. I don't think that's something Zoomers really know anything about. Kind
No.
of like you were saying before, like if you have like that, familiarity or some investment into those old shows like Honeymooners and whatnot, you could watch this and feel right at home. But the younger generation, like, it has more than likely never seen or heard of that stuff. Because that's
yeah,
just kinda how the world works nowadays, like, there's just so much stuff out there that, like, the younger kids, they just don't even know this stuff even existed. Like, they didn't know what a floppy disk is, they don't know what a CD is, like, these people
yeah,
actually exist
We were
and can
born in a
drive
strange
cars right
time.
now, and we were right in the sweet
yep,
spot.
Yeah, really, we
Like,
were.
we got a mix of it all, but, like, yeah, there's a lot of people now that's, like, younger than us who I could totally see watching this and having a negative outcome to it because
They just don't understand.
exactly, they don't get the joke, kinda like we were saying about little Timmy watching Deadpool, like, the jokes are just gonna go right over his head, he's just there for the action, and for this, I think the whole concept of it could very easily fall on deaf ears and go over its head, like, they're just like, "What's," like, they don't even know what's going on, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
you're not given any information as to the why you're seeing it in this fashion, so I could totally see some people, like, not liking it. Like, I don't know, I haven't gone on my way to look and see, like, what the consensus is kinda critically and, like, from, like, a, I don't know, like, a user standpoint, um, since it aired. I just know I remember the pre ones, like, the pre-critic ones that came out, prior to the show's release were all positive. I haven't gone back to actually see what the consensus is now among the audience and critics, so, like, it'd be interesting to see it going forward, what people kinda think about it. I don't know, like, 'cause I liked it, I just felt
yeah,
like I just wish we would've got a little bit more after an hour, you know what I mean?
yeah.
That's about it, like,
Yeah,
that's the only kinda thing I have with it is just an hour went by, and you don't have any answers still.
my question:
Like, that's the only thing I'm like, "Well, just give me something," like,
who the fuck's the beekeeper? What was that about?
see, I don't know.
Because that was a pretty
Yeah,
climactic, like, oh snap, that's the beekeeper. But it's like
I'm assuming
and
somebody
then
Wanda's
she
familiar
says
with from her
no, and she
past.
goes back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
she says
rewinds
no, and
it.
she actually rewinds time and resets everything. That's what that her doing that in that scene is what kind of what makes me think that this is all something that she's constructed because
Yeah.
she
Because
has
she has
the
total
ability.
control. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I
Exactly.
think she's like I said, I think she's causing everything around her, but I don't think she's
Mhm,
all there stability wise, mentally stable. You know what I mean? Because she's doing all
yeah,
this presumably to have Vision back.
yeah,
You know what I mean? To try to live a normal, happy life because like she just
sure,
lost the love of her life, right? So this is
sure.
all something that she's doing. But this beekeeper fella must be someone from, I would assume, her past.
it's Thanos.
She, yeah,
He doesn't
she
even
is
know
the
she is.
well, the beekeeper, and I don't have any. The only comic book reference that I even like kind of came to mind was sometimes the AIM soldiers.
It kind of looked
Their
like that,
their
yeah.
outfits kind of look like a beekeeper's outfit, so that was the only thing that came to mind with that. And it'll be interesting to see if they go that route or it's something else. Like if AIM has, if she's kind of lost touch with reality and they've taken her prisoner or hostage or something, and they're monitoring her. I don't know. It's very because Sword in the comic books was an extraterrestrial watch group whereas Shield was like they watched things domestically and internationally on Earth. Sword kind of looked to the skies and said, what threats are out there from space. So I'm not sure how they work that into this story either because there isn't an extraterrestrial element at least right now that we know of. So
Yeah. Another thing, someone's saying that it could be Swarm, which is, I guess, there was a classic episode from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in the 80s that involved a weird creature formed of a body made entirely of bees, and his name was Swarm.
okay. That'd be an
It is.
And
interesting. That would be a deep cut if they went
well, then
Spider-Man is
someone's saying
Amazing
it could
Friends.
be like the Grim Reaper, but not like the Grim Reaper, but Eric Williams, the brother of Simon Wonderman Williams.
Hmm.
Someone, I guess, who appeared during the WandaVision, trying to live happily ever after in the comics. And then AIM was the only other one. So like AIM, S.w.o.r.d, Swarm, or the Grim Reaper is, I guess, some of the leading prevailing theories for the Beekeeper.
Okay.
I still think it's Thanos. That's
Yeah, I don't know, because that's the only thing that like really popped off at the end. That's just like, well, what's this? Because even the Beekeeper had that sword logo on the back of his outfit.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I didn't catch
and
that.
that's the whole thing that's kind of confusing with the sword thing too, though. In all reality, is because like, didn't they introduce sword, or did we just assume it was sword in the end of Captain Marvel with Sam Jackson being up in space? Like, I just kind of assumed that was going to be the start of sword.
That's a good question. I
Like,
don't remember how that ended. I remember him being in space, but I don't remember if they said what organization he was with up there or not.
yeah, I don't know. Like, I think most
They
people
may have name
assume
dropped
sword,
sword.
but I can't remember if it was like general consensus that, oh, that was sword. It had to be because it's in space and stuff.
Yeah.
Or
Sure.
if it was actually named, I don't really know. But yeah, so like the Beekeeper thing is the only one. I'm not seeing anything with anyone actually having any like confirmation or leaks of it. So yeah, I don't know. They're just saying that it was a sword. So yeah, I mean that's the thing too with Sword's existence in there too. What are they doing? What are they doing watching Wanda? It's not like, it's like you said. I mean, it's like, what's extraterrestrial about what's going on? Like, why would they be there doing that? Like, I don't know, man. There's definitely like, at least they're setting up some stuff that's keeping us guessing.
And, yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm definitely intrigued to some degree.
They've got your attention.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. Like I said off the top, they have your attention because it's the MCU anyway.
That's true.
You know what I mean? That's why
That's
I was
true.
just kind of, that was the only thing I was hoping they didn't do, was like, I want them to give you a little bit more and not just rely on everyone's all involvement in the MCU just to keep it going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't want them to just kind of like not waste my time or anything. Just like act as if you have to sell me like this being a show by itself. That's what I want the show to be presented as. You know what I mean? Like Mandalorian did a really great job of that. Like, it's not like it just being a Star Wars show that made it a good show. Like, they just made a good show.
It's a good show, yeah.
They just made a good show.
Not a bad
Like,
show.
It's fun to watch. You don't have to like Star Wars to like Mandalorian. Like, kind of like
They
the
definitely-
MCU's done. You're froze again, John.
They definitely did not do the they didn't have the what am I trying to say? They didn't have the hook
Yeah,
that
they did.
was Baby Yoda.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll grant you that. Like there was nothing that like oh
yeah. I mean, with them
that's
doing
a
that,
Baby Yoda. Like
at the end of the first
I gotta
episode,
see-
yeah, when you see that, you're just like, well, okay.
Yeah. You got me.
Yeah, and that's what I've been saying with Wanda. That was a perfect way of like a perfect example, right? Like, I didn't get enough answers from it, and there wasn't that one thing. That's why I said the second episode worked better than the first one, because you end on that weird ass beekeeper thing, and then everything turns to color, and then you also had the radio thing happen. So you just got a lot more out of the second episode.
Yeah,
and then
for
you
sure.
also, like, it was a more enjoyable episode. Like the whole sitcom premise of it. Like, I love magic and magic tricks, and like, you got me.
He
Like,
does like
I'm sucker for that kind of stuff, the card tricks and things like that. So like, I was all on board with watching that whole scene play out and everything. Like, I was fine with it. Like, the second episode definitely better than the first one, which is, I guess, good. You always want to keep making them be better, so I guess it has that going for it. But it definitely didn't have that thing that just like hooks you in, like you said. Like, the only thing that I feel like has anybody's attention is the overarching, well, this is the MCU. So you already have my attention because of the MCU.
I think they know that, though.
And that's what I don't want them to do. That's
like, we know you're going to watch this because this is
exactly.
MCU.
I wonder if they would have had like a very identifiable voice. If they would have dropped that Wanda, who's doing this to you, line, and had it be a voice that there was no question about who it was, and had it be someone that we know, and like I'm trying to think of a character like
Dude, it sounded like
if
Bruce
it had been
Banner.
Thor, if it had been Thor,
I was going to say
or
Thor.
if it had been Bruce Banner, but it had been if it had been Bruce, if they had said something like, Wanda, it's Bruce, you know, who's doing this to you, so that you actually got a name drop to another Avenger doing, if that would have been enough to give people that hook, like, oh wow, that's okay, so they're bringing Bruce in or something, you know, because it was missing that Baby Yoda, that pull. And so I'm just trying to think of how they could have pulled that, or use the
Right.
word pull for everything, pulled that off. um like, obviously, if they had Robert Downey Jr.'s voice, like, Wanda, it's Tony. Well, what then it would have been like, oh shit, like, you know, how in the world is it Tony's dead? That would
Someone
have
was saying it sounds like Randall Park, the guy, the FBI agent from Ant-Man and the Wasp, the who played Asian Jim in The Office in that one episode. You remember
Oh
that?
yeah.
They said
did he ever meet Wanda though? Like, there's like
nobody
they
works
call
for
her by
Shield.
name. Sure, but they say Wanda. Like, I feel like that person,
She
whoever
knows
it
her.
ends up being, yeah, exactly, is somebody that she knows, that we know she knows. Like, it'll be somebody that we've seen her interact with before. It'll be another Avenger. It will be like Bruce, or it will be somebody.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Who knows, man? Who knows? I don't know. This article is seeming to suggest that it was him.
Hmm.
I guess we'll find out.
Like this fella here.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He played Kim Jong Un too, didn't
Yeah,
he?
he did in the interview. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm definitely curious to see what the hell's going on, that's for sure, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
Well,
I
and we've got what, next week will be 70s, 80s, 90s. So I mean, I think we've got quite a few episodes. But you know, we talked about how there are 9 episodes. We only have 7 decades worth to get through. So I feel like the last 2 episodes will be very heavy modern day. What's the status of the MCU right now?
So how much do you think this is actually gonna lead its way into, after seeing the first 2 episodes, did it give a clear indication of how you think this will actually lead into, like, Doctor Strange, or just like, because to me, it almost just seems like even more distant at this point. Like, it seems like more of its own thing than being intertwined with anything. Because I mean, a really easy person to have on that radio would have been Stephen Strange,
That's true.
Sure.
Yeah.
but didn't seem that it was Cucumber Man. Like, didn't sound
Well,
like
and
Benadryl
they'd
Cumberbatch.
have to, you know, I think the voice was also distorted. The radio was very distorted too. So I don't even think if it was somebody, anybody would really be able to tell exactly, unless Marvel releases who it is, or like gives a cast credit for it. Um, but I think this could be, you know, I hate to speculate in my own head, because the story I'm building in my own head is could end up being like better. I'm hoping
Yeah.
that's not the case, but you know, I think it's entirely possible that Wanda is doing this, and whoever is searching for her, if it is Stephen Strange, maybe, you know, when they find her and they pull her out of this, that is what breaks the multiverse open, and that's why it leads into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Is that Wanda, through her encounters with whatever's going on now, somehow breaks reality, and so that leads into Doctor Strange. You know, that's my best guess at this point about how they're going to tie these things together.
right. That's where I'm at with it. That's what it's kind of assumed. It's just been mainly because what we know about Wanda, House of M, all that stuff. Just figured
Sure.
she's just gonna F with reality in some way, that Stephen Strange is like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
like you gotta stop. I'm like, so I don't know. We'll just have to see. I don't think it gave any clear indication of how it would tie into it, though. Really, 'cause like I said, it didn't really give us anything. That'd be my biggest gripe about the show overall, is that like you're just still left with too many questions. I feel like after an hour,
Yeah.
like that's my only complaint. Like, it's just I would just want a little bit more from an hour's worth of time. Like, not here's one scene for 5 seconds of the same sword logo just on somebody else this time.
Yeah.
That's all you get,
Mhm.
right? Where it's on another object. And that's like, because that's really, if you want to really break it down, the only thing we got at all was sword.
Mhm.
You got sword at the end of the first one, sword on the helicopter, sword on the Well, you got the radio thing, and I guess that's its own thing, but you still no answer to anything. It's just another question. But then I mean and then the sword logo on the beekeeper. So it's like we just get sword and then the
Sword.
yeah, just sword and questions. That's all we got like out of it. So I'm hoping that's all I want more is just a little bit more of an inkling of just like, well, what's actually going on? Like what making me just because it's like you said, if the longer that we as anybody would really do this with any sort of, you know, property like this, the longer you're in your head about it, the more of a chance you have to be disappointed.
Yeah, because you're setting
Because
up.
you're setting up the story in your head now. And if you like it, then like when that doesn't happen, you're disappointed.
You're going to be upset. Yeah.
And like that's how everybody like that's why I try to not like have preconceived notions when I go see a movie or something because like I don't want to fall into such a simple little trap of like, well, that's not what I wanted to happen, so I didn't like it. You know what I mean? Like that's because I want to accept it for what it is and then judge it accordingly. But when you have these kind of things drag out too long, it's almost inevitable to start. You start to form your own, you know, conclusions because the show's asking you to in a lot of ways. So, which is, I bet that's why a lot of people, despite Lost having such a bad ending altogether, I bet it didn't help that like for years you go on not really wondering or knowing what the hell's going on with Lost, and then when you finally realize what it is, it's like, what? Like what? That's it? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I hope they don't drag it out too long. Mainly just for kind of that reason. So, you guys got anything else you want to add to it?
I think we covered it.
All right,
I
man.
loved it.
No, I liked it overall. I just want a little bit more answers from it more than anything. That's
Sure.
why I wanted to clear it up off the top. Like I liked the show. I don't think it was the best sitcom ever, and I don't think we got enough other stuff to justify an hour of sitcom.
I don't want it to
That's
be
it.
over. I don't want to rush to the end, but I'm very eager to hear. I'm very eager to hear everybody's opinions and thoughts once it's all said and done.
Yeah,
How
I'm totally
it plays as an entire saga or an entire story.
Yeah, I think the way they're setting it up, like you said, is going to really, really live and die by the execution and landing. Like however they land this thing, it's going to be, you know, was all the waiting worth it and all the like misdirects and question marks? Like it's got to have a good payoff. I mean, it's obviously a little too early to tell, but and maybe I don't know. Like I think it was a good choice for them to release both of these episodes. Not seeing the rest of the show, at least, I think it seems like a good thing that they dropped both of these since the next one's going into color and going into a little bit more modern time.
Yeah.
My guess is that we're going to get more information from episode 3.
I hope so.
So I think it was a good idea for them to drop the first 2 so that you're not waiting 3 weeks to get that information. Like waiting 1 week to get that information is a little bit better for people than I don't know. I could see a lot of people because kind of like you were saying, not really liking the show because they're not familiar with the 50 sitcoms kind of thing. If they had to go through 2 weeks of it, would they want to come back for week 3? Like, you know, I could see a lot of people if they just were completely turned off by it, maybe they would just tune out and not even come back. So I don't know.
I just real quick. I don't think we're going to get any answers next week. I think
You
it's
don't?
going to be. I think we're going to get little snippets like we did in these 2. You might get instead of 5 seconds of information or teases, you might get a minute's worth next episode. But you're not going to get any solid concrete answers until maybe episode 7 at the earliest.
I don't know about that far away. I don't think we'll have answers next week. I don't know if I phrased it that way, but I'm just mean more information. Because right now we haven't gotten any information. It's just been sword logos and a voice. All questions. There hasn't been anything concrete as far as like information. Like we don't even know where Wanda's at. We don't know what time it is. We don't know what part of like what month it is. We're gonna get some sort of information like that, I think.
I think you'll slowly get those bits of information.
Yeah, and that's why I think we're finally gonna get something, just something to kind of let you like just understand more of what's going on. Still in your head, still not giving you like, well, this is like clearly what's happening. Thanos went and got the stones, and like then this, like that's not what's gonna happen. Like it's just gonna be like, oh, something that makes you go, oh, okay. Maybe something that'll let you connect back and like see, like maybe that's why the sword thing was there. I don't know. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm looking forward to it, though. I'm totally looking forward to it. I'm glad they're keeping you guessing to some degree. So, but with that down, guys, that is going to do it for us today.